Righty. Yeah. Welcome everybody on Facebook. We're getting back to being here and starting Bible study. Doing that with you guys there. It's us four no more tonight. I don't know anybody's name, but Steve and Linda, I'm talking to you. We miss you. So we'd love to join us in person. And if you're joining us on Facebook, that's all as well. So today we are going to be looking at Matthew 7, and this is a portion of the Sermon on the Mount. And Alan and I were talking about this a little bit today, that the lenses you read this chapter through are very important, because there seems to be some stuff about what's good, what's bad, all that kind of stuff. So we'll jump in with all that. Excuse me. And as always, if you have comments, questions, Mr. Kim is getting up to speed on Facebook to be able to field those. And what do we think about lag time compared to straight folk wisdom?
It's probably a little bit less. I
Okay.
haven't really, when I was in certain rooms last Sunday, I noticed that it was less than going straight to Facebook's webpage. So I expect it to be a little less, but there's still a little.
Some lag.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do when we end a section is we'll be sure to say to you guys, hey, wait with your comments and questions, and then we'll talk here, and then we'll check in on what you've sent before we move on.
This is one of those red chapters.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, I don't think anybody, well, until the end. I think the last two verses say something else, but other than that, it's just Jesus talking. Or in the Passion Translation, it's bold type. So.
Why are you waiting?
I'm looking at you right on the page up.
I'm fine. So you do your thing, I'll do mine.
I'm seeing why you do your thing. Why is hard is such a low
I don't know where it is. Looking for it. Looking for it.
It's always easier for me if I go to the harvest page first.
That's what I'm gonna have to do.
You just scroll down a little bit.
Here it is.
Or technically, you go to the YouTube channel because it's streaming there too.
Yes.
Cool. How cool is that?
And we will be getting that to you soon, how you can be with us on YouTube.
Here we go.
Hey, here it is. And there was just a little bit of a lag. If I do this, 2, 3,
I need to mute all my stuff.
There's still a lot.
yeah. Sorry, now I'm getting distracted watching her.
Just
Stop it. Okay. Great. Any other intro comments, thoughts? Matthew 7?
Yeah.
Bonnie Chatfield's with us. Bonnie.
Yeah. I'm ready. Yeah.
All right. Sam, are you reading
Plan through.
some or all? What are you reading? This is a text.
Check. Which
Are you going to read some of it or all of it?
You're gonna share read with us, or you're gonna read all of it by yourself? I don't know.
Okay.
How about you first, and then we'll pass it around?
I
Okay.
think it was that big question.
I don't know
Lock
why
him
you're
up.
talking. It's okay.
He's not in people school yet. Only
Yes.
at computer school. Okay, Matthew chapter 7. We'll start with verses 1 to 6.
Do not judge others, and you will not be judged, for you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, "Let me help you get rid of the speck in your eye," when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite! First get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Don't waste what's holy on people who are unholy. Don't throw your pearls to pigs. They will drool the pearls, then turn and attack you.
Excuse me.
Mm.
Wow, it's good.
Good stuff.
Jesus doesn't hold any punches on most stuff.
No, this is a tough chapter. So again, if you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and weigh in with us if you have a thought or a comment or a question on verses 1 through 6. How about here in the room? Thoughts on throwing the gauntlet down on judgment?
Well, I think it's something that from our nature we need to hear. Because it's, I mean, from my point of view, my opinion, it's kind of the root of what we do with religious stuff anyway. It really is to say, I need to create some structure or religion structure or framework where I can make myself good and then I can judge others be lower than me.
Yep.
And so I think there's a nature in us that tries to do that with almost everything that we do. And again, I think it kind of stems from the whole world. It stems from the world economy. If you get a piece of pie, I don't get it. Rather than God's economy. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you're doing well, that means there's less for me to do well in. So
Right.
I've got to judge you and bring you down. I mean, I'm not saying people do it consciously, but I think there's inherent in something that we tend to do subconsciously, and we have to push other people down because we feel like if they're going up, then we're on the seesaw, and that's the way God's economy really works.
Right.
Not the whole spiritual realm laws, but it's what we perceive and something twisted up. So what he's saying is it's something we really need to take to heart. Not in a bad way, but to say and begin to understand that I don't need to put Kim down to feel better about him,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. Both those concepts that you bring, I think, are inherent in people, and some people deal with them more than others. I think religion is a human condition, that we make rules, makes me justified and you're, or sometimes I think, especially if we're raised in a real tough atmosphere, an unhealthy atmosphere, and I think people project this on me. I'm wrong. I was told I was wrong by a parent or a teacher or a coach, authority figure, and I'm not keeping rules, therefore I'm wrong. And you can judge with those religious rules.
Oh yeah.
And the seesaw is a separate thing, although they're similar. That I push you down, I go up. And I think it was JFK that the rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
And you know, it really how it ought to be is that we rise to, and we don't have to put other people down.
Well, and that is intrinsically linked to, again, us believing that God values us by what we can and can't do,
Right.
not based on who we are.
Right.
You know, so again, I'll put you down because I need to be up higher. I need to be better.
But I think the religion times is based in how we're wired. It's always easy for me to my living situation. You know, I'm a methodical, everything in its place kind of person, and my mate is much more creative than that, and she does it different every time. And it has been a religion that I've heard to say this is wrong, because really saying is you're not like me.
Yeah.
Doing it the way I would do it.
Well, and that point something too is that don't judge other people. Some people are really good in certain categories and then fall short of categories.
Right.
In the same concept.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and sometimes we judge people by our strengths
Yeah.
and their weaknesses, and I think we pack that a little bit as we dig through kind of the rest of those verses. But yeah, there's a lot, and it's for all of us. It's a good warning. It isn't Jesus just hitting us with a metaphor. So I wanted to do some other things, and if you guys have some that you want to.
Are we moving on to another section? Oh, okay.
Here in the first
I've got
6
more in this
verses.
section, but you go.
Sure. And really, the Passion had some fantastics, especially in these first 6. And the one that the version I really was in was the Amplified. Message, this is a strange chapter.
The message was, I bounced back and forth the message in the Passion and just went back to the
I knew the Amplified had things from the next chunk that we'll read. But here is verse 1 out of the Amplified. Do not judge and criticize and condemn others unfairly with an attitude of self-righteous superiority, as though assuming the office of a judge, so that you will not be judged unfairly. And almost every study I read talked about Jesus is not saying we shouldn't, assess things.
Yes.
Because again, through the chapter, he's talking about inspecting fruit. But it really is us putting ourselves in a place where we are the judge. I love the idea of the office of a judge. You behind the bench and rule.
Well, I love that phrase that was there. What was it? Unfairly or
fairly with an attitude of self-righteous
Exactly.
superiority.
I think that's.
I'm up on the seesaw.
Isn't that breaks that? Isn't it so much so too? You really break into it, and Jesus is usually talking about our heart rather than our actions.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's the why thing.
Yeah.
Because again, even this idea of assessing or judging, Jesus is telling you to do it. It's in the chapter. You go, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to judge, but I am supposed to pick fruit. So, so how do you do this right, not do it wrong? And I think especially on the not being part, it's the rest of this chunk that we just read that brings that into perspective.
No, that's all.
Let me just read 1 through 5 in the packet, and we'll kick that around because I got multiple colors out there, and you can see my colors. I just know they're different. I'm not sure what they are.
Yeah.
Is it pretty?
Yeah, it's
Is
pretty.
that good colors? Huh?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. I like glasses, by the way.
Thanks.
They're colorful. Verses 1 to 5 of 7. Refuse to be a critic, full of bias towards others, and judgment will not be passed on you. For you'll be judged by the same standard that you use to judge others. The measure you use will be used on you. Why would you focus on the flaw in someone else's life and you fail to notice the glaring flaws of your own? How could you say to your friend, let me show you where you're wrong, when you're guilty of even more? You're being hypocritical and a hypocrite. That phrase just nailed me. You're being hypocritical and a hypocrite. Acknowledge your own blind spots and deal with them. Then you'll be capable of dealing with the blind spot of your friend. So in that context, it makes it easy to go. There have been times where, the critical thing really deals with me because again, I think I was raised to some extent was to judge others according to my strengths or my temperament, just the way I'm. And I think there have been times I've judged for a small thing that they did different than me or they saw differently than me. It wasn't right or wrong. But my attitude of judgment about it or criticism was absolutely wrong. So I had this log criticism in my eye, and they had a little bit of sawdust of, well, maybe they weren't thorough, or maybe they weren't detail-oriented. They weren't something that I'm good at, but I developed log of judgment towards them. So that balance of, it takes some wisdom to know, when to assess fruit, when not to judge.
Yeah.
Do I have a big problem and you have a problem, and I need to deal with me first?
Well, I've always first read like verses 3 through 5. I first read, I was a little bit, what's the word? It always was like, well, how does that work? Because aren't we supposed to help each other?
Right.
So how am I supposed to help them if I have? And so when I read it, the lens was, wait, so I have to get myself perfect before I help someone else. And so you see where I'm going with it. So I thought, well, that doesn't make sense because I don't see how I can get perfect, which means how to help somebody else, but I'm supposed to help other people. So I was just talking myself in a big circle, And I finally read it somewhere last year, I think, where I finally read it, and I began to read it with verse 6 at the same time. And I don't know if I'm right, but I began to realize, wait a minute, I think it's mostly talking about jumping up and going to somebody that hasn't asked for advice and to force my advice on them, and that when you get to verse 6, it says you can't do that. You can't just throw those pearls.
Right.
They're going to attack you
Right.
because you're giving it, but somebody says, hey, Alan, I need help with this. I'm going with this.
Right.
Then I began to realize, well, maybe that's not what this is taught. This is more talking about, again, that, and what you said, I think, just now really kind of lends credence to what my angle was, which was, I've got a law judgment and I'm going to come and try and correct you.
Right.
But you haven't asked for correction. It wasn't something that was, when I was learning how to lead the youth, phrase rubbing the guard versus going off the cliff.
Right.
And God used to have a really strict leader because as a teacher, people would say something, one thing were wrong, and I'd say, oh, that's wrong. I need to fix that.
Right.
And God had a real strict hand to say, they're just bumping the guardrail. Let them bump the guardrail.
Right.
If they're going to go off a cliff,
Right.
but if they're just bumping the guardrail, let them bump the guardrail. That kind of thing is what it reminds me with this particular verse is I've got this law of judgment, and I'm trying to fix you when all you're doing is bumping on the guardrail bit.
Right.
In that term of phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I'm throwing pearls down, and I might be right. The
Right.
pearls might be wisdom,
Right.
but you're not ready to hear it, and I'm in a place that it was really good to be given wisdom in the first place,
Right.
and so you're going to turn and trample me,
Right.
emotionally or verbally or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. Yeah, we've had this conversation times that it's in general a guide that men view solicited advice as criticism. And again, these are generalizations. They're generalizations because they're generally true. Whereas if you watch The View or some women show, there's that kind of corporate sharing, sewing circle thing going on. Guys don't tend to be that way. Don't tell me what to do unless I'm asking for your help kind of thing. So yeah, the unsolicited help is there. The other thing I think that we have really learned, I think this is true about ministry in general, or help people in general, but it can't do it without an invitation. So are you inviting input? And the only other addendum to that is God inviting.
Yeah.
Because there's times, specifically, I think I learned this lesson in area of grief. Somebody's lost, a loved one. Is there anything we can do for you to come, specifically as pastors? And there's times where God's going, I don't care what they say. You're going to go, and, knock on their door and hug them and let them cry on your shoulder and pray with them. And I'm inviting you. Oh, okay. But that's where it becomes careful that, pearls before swine thing, because dogs and pigs were pictures in Jewish culture of something that wasn't holy.
Right.
And I wondered if you wanted to share something about that.
Actually, somebody telling me that they're having trouble seeing and getting the feed. Even shared it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was trying.
You might be having technical problems.
Well, so I was struck with reading this, how relevant to our political situation passages. I was like, wow. Matthew chapter 7, right on time, God, for all the nonsense that's going on. Here's one faction or party judging the other one for the very same thing they do. Both sides, whatever side you're on, there's judging of the other side going on, and you do the very same things, and so it's funny good to be the bigger person, and really to not judge someone else, stoop to the level of what someone's doing, because we all have critics that come our way in life at jobs or in friends or whatever, and so we have to make the decision: are we going to be the big person and not stoop to the level of the judgment? Are we going to value relationship and honor? Creating a culture of honor takes humility. Creating a culture of honor in any group of people that you're with, humility, and it takes commitment to relationship first, above being right. you know. So I was struck reading this, how relevant it is to exactly what's going on.
We're confident we got good stream and good flow.
Oh,
I was sharing it with somebody and they said the link that I copied the link and it didn't form.
Well,
yeah, I
that's
shared it
not-
on my page just now, and it went and shared, and I'm getting a good feed, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not get too sidetracked with
Yeah, I don't know, but
somebody's technical problem. Might be here, they might be out there.
right.
It's working. Probably my only other thought, because we got a lot to cover, is I think the whole dogs and pigs thing really has to do with if you value something, be careful who you share it with.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be constructive criticism in the context of this. Say, hey, dude, I'm not sure that's healthy. I'm not sure you're helping yourself or helping somebody else. But we've also seen it with spiritual stuff quite often in life. Again, from the position of pastoring, we've had folks come and say, oh, I want to be a disciple. I really to speak into my life. I want you to get out there and chisel and take off the rough edges. And then you go, okay, well, how about you clean toilets at church or work in the nursery, or sometimes you shoot your mouth off. And then, well, I really, and it's like, oh, you wanted to say you wanted accountability or input in your life, but you didn't really want it if it was going to be uncomfortable. And so I think there is that measure of going, are people ready? Are they going to value it? Because the idea of holy is about something being sacred, something being special, something being valuable. So if you're going to treat it as valuable, I shouldn't be offering it to you and then be surprised you trample on your foot and let me have it. How dare you? Kind of thing. And I think once again we talked about this as well. The idea of relationship being like a bridge. If what I want to do over is heavy, I got to have a pretty good bridge. If I want to take a shotgun over there, I just need a rope I can put on my back and shimmy over the rope. If I want to bring it, I need a pretty good concrete bridge. So what we're going to share is there. But for me, I think the summation of this first chunk is really, am I looking at myself, allowing God to work with me first before I go on anybody else and not be cruel. And again, this has certainly been natural to me where I judge you of my own opinions, my own way of looking at the world, my own strengths, as opposed to someone else. We getting any comments or feedback from folks out there?
Nope. I don't know what to tell you. It's he's the only one that came on, and other people are telling me. I got people telling me that they can't hear you.
Well, I think your share probably did more, but that's okay. Well, hi Bonnie, we love you. Thrilled you're with us. We know sometimes it go up and down.
Yep.
It's okay. Any other thoughts on those first 6?
I'm good, yeah.
Sam, you still reading?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what that sound was, but that's okay. Let's do 7 through 11. Verses 7 through 11.
Keep on asking and you will receive when you ask for it. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be opened to you. Everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds. And to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. You parents, if your children ask for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Or if they ask for a fish, do you give them a snake? Of course not. So if you sinful people know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give good gift to those who ask him?
Good.
Good stuff.
I text see if she can get on.
Okay.
Okay.
From my end, everything, I don't know if she can't get on, I don't know what we would do.
Yeah, I think we may have had a share or something like that. So,
So
go from there.
So this is cool. It's basically, reminds me, Daniel,